And I think circling back to you, Jordan, kind of this similar theme. I like this theme a lot. Like, can you talk to us about your crypto journey? I mean, you have such a cool background. You go through law school. You're going back to the family business, and me and you talked shop media. I mean,
Yeah.
if you tell somebody linear television, they're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? But I know that shit. I know spot radio. I know spot TV. You know, we talk all the same language. How do you go from linear TV and digital ad buys to NFTs?
And more
Absolutely.
importantly, recognizing that it's the future, right? And being able to present that effectively to a family business. I'm curious to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, though, Walker, that was gold, and no pun intended, but that was absolute gold, and that I mean, that's that's one of the things with this, and we'll talk about the full team later. But really, really fortunate to have an incredible team around me, and as I'll get into how I met Walker. But yeah, it's really it's awesome to see. And you made a comment earlier that you don't like following me up. I don't know how the hell I'm going to follow that up. But so how I made that transition, what my crypto journey. So my crypto, well, back in, I remember reading like my first like Yahoo article on Bitcoin and this like when I don't know, probably hit $1 at the
Right.
time. I don't remember what year it was, but I started like Googling it, trying to like figure out how to buy it. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'll throw $100 at it and see what happens. I don't even think it hit $1 at the time. And I like started looking at it. I'm like, okay, dark web is scary. Let's not do that. As time went progressed, I kept seeing an article or seeing something. Always was intrigued by it. I'd try to buy it. Too hard, too scary. I'd stop. Come and then all of a sudden, Coinbase came around. And I don't know, end of 2016, beginning of 2017. I was finally able to buy. Let's see, at the time they had Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. Um, and I just started. This is we're going to talk. We talked fish already. I'd take some fish money, and take some profits, and I'd start to dollar cost average into some cryptos, and that was just purely, this is kind of cool. This is money I'm willing to burn because I didn't fully understand the technology at the time.
Right.
I always kind of think when I don't understand something, there's usually something there when I'm seeing other people get excited,
Right.
and I try to understand it. I get very curious, so I would just dollar cost average into it, and I was an investor. Fast forward to being done with baseball, getting into law school, learning about intellectual property rights, learning about title and how you convey title, things like that, and it started getting more and more interesting. And the whole time throughout law school, I'm just intrigued by the blockchain, intrigued by smart contracts. Later on, non fungible tokens, and seeing like thinking how can we take this. I wanted to figure out a way to combine media and blockchain, and because I really, for the life of me, I just didn't want to do the traditional family business the way it was. I had to try to figure out my own spin on and leverage that foundation to something else. That's really what it was. And I grew up in the company. Again, very, very tight knit family. But for some reason, I always had this desire to put my own spin on it. And Mikey, no hard feelings on the traditional media side.
Oh,
But yeah, I wanted to
blast
always
away, man. I hate it too.
it's given me a very, very good life, and a very awesome opportunity,
Right.
and incredible resources. But I've learned a lot. Like I've always been intrigued by business, and probably part of this, like just purely like supply and demand economics. What makes things go round?
Right.
And so from an early age, I mean, I would just, I was fascinated by it, and that's why I think like most guys when they're playing pro ball, they teach lessons in the off season. Like I wanted to sell things. I wanted to I wanted to get into that and into the economics and just and learn about and experience business. I was just, I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
It was a little bit different. So, um, beginning of 2021, end of 2020, kind of transitioning careers, non-fungible tokens start to become more popular. I mean, I remember when CryptoPunks came out and when Cool Cats, all that stuff. I was intrigued, didn't fully understand it, and I remember around that time, I'm like, I'm taking a deep dive into this. How do we? This is interesting. Again, one of those like that's foreign, that's weird. I don't get it. Let me try to learn about it.
Right.
And started just studying. And when you do like some of these real estate transactions, and there was this one transaction in particular where it was we had both attorneys on both sides in agreement. We literally had a spreadsheet with debits and credits. Everybody was in agreement of how the funds will be dispersed, what goes where, all that.
Right.
And you're dealing with a title company, and it took a week and a half to get the closing statement down right. And we went through multiple, I think it was 6 different revisions. When I mean, it's an archaic system. The title system is archaic. Like pink slips for cars, it's archaic.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's not at all what we're doing, but it's just another example of
great example.
It starts to click. Here's a great way of how we can utilize non-fungible tokens.
Yep.
So then all of a sudden the PFP standard comes around and digital art comes around. Cool nonetheless. The verifiable ownership of digital property, very cool. Logical connection to video games, logical connection to a lot of things that are out there. But seeing people take a picture of a Bored Ape and just like cutting the face out and photoshopping it onto their body, to me, I'm like, this is a beautiful technology.
Yeah.
We can do better. We can do better. So then it became, okay, how do we take that 2D image that people are using to Photoshop and turn it into a 3D model? We already have motion capture technology around us with our phones. So people are familiar with that experience.
Right.
How do we take that and create a true virtual identity that can not only be your identity on social media, but also in a video game, on Zoom? Anytime where you need that virtual identity, why should it only be constrained to a profile picture?
Yep.
Why can't we go cross-platform and actually like embody it, actually bring it to life, animate it, bring it to life through your movements or through your controlled movements? And so that's how MetaTope was born.
I love it.
And started trying to build. And I'm a lawyer. I'm anything but a developer.
Right.
And you've heard Walker talk. I don't have that expertise. I was purely a hobbyist investor and intrigued by cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. I needed an expert and a very, very close friend I was just talking to about this project, looking up people. He's like, I got the guy. I know this guy.
Awesome.
This kid. I mean,
yeah. Compared to, we are called midlife crisis because we're 40.
Yeah. And here Walker comes along and he, I mean, he's brilliant. So that's kind of how that was formed. And that was summer, but I met Walker summer of 2021 and we've been just building since.
That's awesome. So I'll let Walker tell the meetup story. But before we get to Walker, because I want to hear the same from Walker, there's 2 things that really kind of stuck in my mind. And one is, like we said, we like to talk about people, life, and we will get to MetaTope and the NFTs, but it's rare we have someone with you have a very varied background. So I've got 2 questions, and I think I'll do the general one first. But with someone like your background, and it can be one or it can be a couple, because you said you always wanted to get into business, and like, what's really fascinating to me is you became a pro baseball player. There's a lot of people that get to that mentality and it's like, that's it, right? But you still are like, man, I need to learn more about business. So my question is, through your past experiences, what are the things that you think impacted you and made you learn the most to kind of give you that drive? Are there any life lessons that come to your mind of like, oh, this is something I learned and kind of gave me that extra ambition, or anything you can pull from your past to kind of get you into that mindset? Because that's very interesting to me that you still had that drive after hitting, quote unquote, the top.
Really good question. I mean, so I didn't get to my top, right? I didn't make it to the major leagues. I played minor league baseball.
Okay.
And just to
You were
set that
hey,
stage,
listen, you were close.
I'm
But you
closer
did
than
get
most.
paid to play, which is way more than most
You're a
people will ever
professional.
get.
You got paid to play. A lot of people dream
Yes.
about that, man.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
the fastest guy, like in his whole class.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah. I could run. That was my tool. And I mean, I guess that. Yeah, and I guess that's a good. I mean, this isn't where I was going to go with this, but Walker brought it up. But that was my tool. That's what got me. That's what got me seen. I worked hard. Look, I'm a 5'8" Jewish kid in Southern California where there's talent everywhere. Like I mean, that's like that's not like baseball player pedigree.
Right.
So just
well said. Well said.
Yeah. So I had a tool. I could run faster than anybody. And that is something that's alone got me drafted. Right. There was a White Sox scout at a game when I was in high school. I beat out a routine ground ball that I think a lot of guys might not even try to make an attempt on, but I hit a routine ground ball and I hustled and I beat it out. And it caught the guy's attention. So I think that mentality of just kind of working hard, using that tool. I mean, I think there are two things there, like that not giving up, relentlessness.
Yes.
Was built in me. And look, baseball is a game of failure. Like I mean, you can look me up. My career stats are not good. I was used to failing, and I kept coming back, and I'd get hurt, whatever, all sorts of injuries, and things would just not work out, and it's a ruthless game.
Right.
And that builds a lot of character. And you can't. I mean, I ended up and over time using that, and then kind of just talking to people of not being able to say something crazy and stupid, because most people, when I would pitch this idea of MetaTope, they're like, you're nuts. Like,
right.
Who the hell would do that?
Yeah.
And it kind of took that like fear of failure and just selling out, just going for it. Because that's what was something that I really, really strove to do, is just sell out, let it just, I mean, and not sell out in like the musician kind of
no, I hear what you're saying.
But you know what I mean? Just balls to the wall and go for it. So I think that was a value and a mentality that really carried over.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great feedback, and it's something that we actually use that a lot, right? Because people hit us up all the time, and it's like, hey, we want you to advise us to help sell our project out. It's like, listen, people, it's like NFTs isn't this just magical unicorn thing. It's the universal principles across life. To be successful at things, you need to work very hard, and usually a long time period. Yes, do people hit lightning in the bottle in this industry? Absolutely. But if you really believe Twitter that everyone you see is a bajillionaire, it's bullshit. And the very successful people in this industry and any other industry are working hard and not giving up. So I love that narrative, man. I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, and I think also though, and I'd be curious your take on this, Jordan, is that fertile soil is an important component here. And because you were also a product of a family that already had a successful family business, and I don't know if before that there were other businesses or whatnot, I do think it is different some of my friends growing up who had families that understood what it takes, the work ethic, a lot of the things you just mentioned, they got because they saw it all the time, especially in the very immersive family businesses, like you just said. You said you're very close knit. And I do think there's something special that happens there because it allows kids to grow up and really see, okay, this is what it takes to earn a dollar. It's not easy and it's consistent. It has to be done over time. And there's going to be, setbacks, but you get through it. And I think that, there's something to be said about that because, if you don't have that, I mean, you're essentially at the discretion of like what most of, I mean, like with Mike and I, man, it was just whatever the public school system taught us, right? And so thankfully there are things like sports and things like that where you can learn teamwork and learn some of these things. And if you have a good coach, I think that can help with it. But there is something really cool about being immersed in that, I think, in a childhood, growing up, that I think gives people benefits that are huge, that are paying off, that have obviously paid off for you. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, you couldn't have hit the nail on the head. That was one of the things I had in my head is like I owe everything to my family. They've been like, even baseball. Like, again, everybody's a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, and here I am going to try to play baseball, and here I am trying to sell JPEGs. They're not
Right.
JPEGs, but you selling fish. Like the crazy stuff I did. I mean, I like my parents, my sister trying to like tell people what I'm doing with my life. Like, it's yeah. So the support of my family, again, there were guys, when my first year of pro ball, we had at one time 7 guys living in a 3-bedroom house because minor league baseball, they don't pay you a whole lot. I didn't have to worry about a meal because I had my family backing me and supporting me, and they would help me out. There were guys that were living off of PB&J sandwiches for every meal when they weren't in the field because they had to make the $1,100 a month stretch for an entire month.
Yeah.
And that's $1,100 a month pre-tax.
Ooh.
And that's universal. First year of pro ball at the time. I mean, I don't think it's even changed much. Now it's changed a little bit because some lawsuits. But yeah, you would get $1,100 a month, and you would have to pre-tax stretch it out an entire month. So
Wow.
we had 7 guys. I paid $50 extra, and I got the master bedroom with my own bathroom. Best $50 I ever spent.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But no, I mean that's so. Again, I owe everything to my family. They've supported me throughout everything, and you hit the nail on the head. It's growing up in that tight knit family where like the business it's a family business, and like the family is a business. So you're all, again, I mean, my dad, my mom, my sister, it's so ingrained with everything. And it's a double-edged sword. If you lose a big client, it sucks for a bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's tough. I mean, agency business is tough, and that's one of the reasons why I would see it. And because we were so close, I saw what it did. I saw how ruthless that business is, and it could be phenomenal sometimes and just ruthless at others. And I didn't want that. I wanted to do something different.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I was like, okay, let's leverage this and do something else. So
yeah, Maddie and I are trying to play the residual income game as much as possible.
Absolutely.
love it.
Content creation is a way to get there.
It's fantastic.
I would love to touch on really quickly, like a few.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you bring up like such a it's so fundamentally important to like understand our childhoods, right? And like everybody on this call.
Hey Walker, real quick, just mic check again.
Better.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we got you.
Everybody you ever talk to, we've all got problems, and a lot of that does, stem from our childhood and that early development. But it's a choice to be great.
Yes.
And you can have all the resources in the world and not utilize them. And I will tell you something right now about that guy. Like working with him, I have had to step my game up 100x because he works so damn hard. Everything we have done. I mean, we get into website development.
Yeah.
And, this guy's learning HTML. He's bugging our entire front end team, and he is making them elevate their game, and that's what he does for everybody that we bring on. He pushes people to be their best,
I love
and
it.
it's been incredible to be a part of. I've learned a lot from it.
Dude. And it's what's really refreshing too is Jordan, think about the amount of people that are in your position and just expect silver platters their whole life and kind of check out, right? There's something about really refreshing to hear family business and understanding that it still does take hard work, right? Because I mean, like, Maddie and I didn't have a ton of money growing up. We weren't poor, but we still, I was working at Taco Bell in high school because I needed some money.
And I
And
was
Love
getting free
Taco
food
Bell.
from Taco Bell because Mike
Matt
worked
was
at Taco
getting
Bell.
free food from Taco Bell because of me. But here, I want to turn it over to you and Jordan. Thanks for that. I mean, that was really amazing. It was great to hear that. Walker, I know you are like Jordan said, younger, but what is very interesting to me is I kind of have this similar question to you because you struck me right away when you first started talking. It's very interesting after, Maddie and I have talked to hundreds of people at this point, and there are still, out of those 100 people, a small group of people that stand out in my mind. And I know looking back, you both will stand out in my mind. And the thing that stood out in my mind about you is you just you put your words together so well where there wasn't a question in my mind. You knew what you were talking about. The no bullshit meter was at 100. Like, I knew you were not spouting bullshit. And so I would love the same question to you, looking at your childhood, your background, your upbringing. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that helped you get to such a fresh, concise mindset that kept you interested, that pissed you off about fiat money? Like, most people when they're that young aren't getting pissed off about fiat money. They're playing video games and drinking Mountain Dew, man.
Yeah, so and I mean, I had a wonderful childhood. I mean, my parents were extremely supportive, in every way, and just as we all have problems, so do all our parents, right? Nobody's perfect,
For sure.
but my mom was extremely loving, very caring. Took the time and took the patience. My dad, was always there for me and would support me in any way. And but I think that the big transition came in college, for me,
Mm-hmm.
and really like being on my own for the first time, like actually like living in my own apartment and
Mm-hmm.
being by myself.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and like I've read studies like this happens to a lot of people. It's not an anomaly like that. That's where your quote unquote your demons come out, where
Right.
you really understand who you are. And in that first year, I had to realize like there were things about me that I didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I really wasn't happy with, and I had to look to my childhood and to, to what had built me to where I was, and identify those things. And it was really powerful in taking like ownership of who I was as a person. But it was also kind of hard to take into reality that the things I'd done that I didn't like, or those characteristics about myself, that was a choice that I had made.
Right.
But it gives you all the liberty.
Yeah.
That with liberty comes responsibility.
Yeah.
So that was a really profound moment where I realized, and like my first year of college, right? Like I made, I slid by, I did the minimum
Right.
work, and then I said, why would I do that? Right? I'm spending my time here, and the last 3 years of school, I made a 4.0. Right? It was literally just a choice,
Right.
and it's about putting in the work. And